Teddy Bridgewater came in, the highest paid backup in the league at over $7 million, and he did not look good. 17 to 30, 165 yards. Again, I know it's a backup going in, but we see backups going all the time. Teddy Bridgewater has been around, had that gruesome injury we know in Minnesota. Everybody was wondering. He stayed. He was a free agent, stayed with New Orleans. Was he going to be the heir apparent to Drew Brees? It did not look good. He did not look good. He did not look sure of himself. He held onto the ball too long in that pocket. So I think many believe this is going to be more than a week injury for Drew Brees. And, oh, by the way, they are at Seattle and then home to Dallas in the next two games. So, and if they have those without Drew Brees, that could be tough.
Well, and I guess that's the thing is a lot of people are going to look at this and use this as an indictment of Teddy Bridgewater now, who came back and got this opportunity on the road against the defending NFC champions in the Los Angeles Rams. I understand he's the highest paid backup. I think with veteran backups too, he'll be better with a week of preparation under his belt, as opposed to guys like Gardner Minshew who come in the middle of a game, and when you're young, being young and dumb and not knowing any better going in usually tends to benefit these guys. But it's going to be tough sledding. I mean, those are two quality opponents they've got, one of whom is one of the most hostile road environments the NFL has to offer. So not envious of the Saints' position right now.
Yeah, listen, you're exactly right. The Gardner Minshews of the world, someone once said it's a victory for the uncluttered mind sometime. You don't know what you don't know.
I mean, I was that guy. My first meaningful playing experience in college was on the road at Wake Forest, and our starter went down at center in the first quarter, and I didn't have time to think. I'm on the sideline just trying to get snaps in, and you go in and you do the things that you had thought about during the week, and then the next week it sets in, oh my God, I'm the starter now. Yeah. I have to be in charge of all these things. So you're not just thinking and reacting anymore. You're preparing the entire week, and that does a different thing to your mind. And so for a young guy like Gardner going in and not knowing that, you play so much more freely than you do the next week when you're thinking about every coaching point that you've now gotten as the starter going into that week.
Yeah, and we'll get into what did and didn't happen at the end of the Jags-Texans game and what we liked and didn't like about that in just a little bit. But sticking with the Saints are hoping a week of practice gives Teddy Bridgewater a fresh look. A fresh look is brought to you by Sport Clips. Cut the weight, download the new Sport Clips haircut app, and check in. So Mark Addix, who was a football doc, he played went to college with me at Baylor, played in the NFL for a long time, and now is a surgeon in Houston. Yes. He does a lot of stuff, I think, on DirecTV, on the basically looking at injuries immediately.
He's a doctor.
He is an actual doctor.
He's a doctor.
He's thinking, look from his outside looking in on the Drew Brees injury, and he tweeted this out there that it looks like surgery, and he might miss up to 6 games, something along those lines. So if that's the case, how much does that change your prognosis for what we expect out of New Orleans this year?
A lot. I mean, I get what you're saying, Mike, now that Teddy gets to prepare. He's not Drew Brees, but he does have a great arsenal around him. So I still think they could be a good team, but a lot of people had him in the Super Bowl. You don't have this. This is why you get a competent backup, because if it's 6 weeks, that's exactly what a backup is for. Keep you above water. Keep going. But when the expectations are a little different, this team is expected to be fighting for the Super Bowl, not just the playoffs, but the Super Bowl. So that certainly can put a crimp in that without question, as far as from the division, especially Atlanta. After the first week, we said, what the hell's the matter wrong with Atlanta? Atlanta certainly looked better last night in their game. So that could be devastating if we're talking 6 weeks.
Yeah, I still think ultimately, because you look at the rest of this division, I mean, Cam Newton is definitely not 100% at this point. We saw that on Thursday Night Football. And what we saw from Atlanta last night was a mixed bag. But the problem is with New Orleans, even as much as you paid Teddy to be the highest paid backup in the NFL, certain offenses are more the player than anything else around them. We think Peyton Manning from all those years in Indianapolis and Denver, and their coaches admit as much. This is Drew Brees' offense, him and Sean together. But at this point, Drew is on autopilot with the way he can conduct this thing. And when you take that part out of it, it puts everyone else in a position they're not used to around there.
Listen, and we just had the news over the weekend that Sean Payton had signed a 5-year deal, so he's going to be not going anywhere. And that led to people thinking, well, Drew Brees, maybe he'll stick around for a few more years. But when you're north of 40 and you start getting these injuries, you start to wonder, okay, how much longer do we think he can effectively do this if this is a long-term injury with the thumb?
By the way, because he said 6 weeks on this, the thought of 6 weeks. In the next 6 games, there's only one division game.
Yeah.
It's Tampa. They go Seattle, Dallas, Tampa, Jacksonville, Chicago, and Arizona. Then they have a bye week, and then they come back and play 3 conference or division games in a row, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and Carolina. So we'll see.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.